What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. I know what you're thinking, right? Andy, could you just make another stats video, talk about expected goals and expected assists a little bit more? But I'm afraid we have to talk about the double game week. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. Some fixtures for double game week 22 have been announced. It's not quite as big as we hoped, as we maybe expected, but there's still lots to dissect. Because a little bit of a difference from last week is for game week 21, the information about the fixtures came very close to the deadline. For this week, we've still got over a week to go, right? So this is going to be like an initial reactions, initial thoughts around players, the fixtures, chip strategy, what I might do with my team and stuff like that. And then we'll cover more stuff like free hit teams and stuff like that in other videos this week. So if you do enjoy it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. So first of all, let's talk about what's actually happened, right? So 4 fixtures have been rearranged into game week 22. That's now given us a double game week 22, and 8 teams are going to have 2 fixtures, right? Originally, it was kind of predicted or hoped or expected that this would be a bigger double game week where nearly every team apart from West Ham and Man City would double. That's not the case. As I said last week, right, it's a very difficult season to predict exactly what's going to happen. When I spoke to Ben the other day, he literally said, out of 5 years of doing this is the hardest he's had it in terms of predicting exactly when these games will be rearranged. And of course, because there's been postponements, that's why we're having doubles, but there's been more postponements as well in other competitions. So because Liverpool and Arsenal was postponing the Carabao Cup, that got pushed back, I should say, and that meant that they then couldn't double in the Premier League, right? So that fixture that we would hope was going to be Leeds at home with Brentford at home, that Leeds game still has to be rearranged, but it will be later in the season now. So that kind of changes things maybe around triple captaincy and stuff like that as well. So the way I thought I would do it, this news is only broken today. We've still got a long time until the deadline anyway, and I'm just kind of reacting to this news straight off as well, is not only will we talk about what fixtures teams have got, but we'll also look about what kind of fixtures they've got afterwards as well. Because if you're going to bring a player in for a double, I get very excited about them, right? You see 2 fixtures, you really want to bring a player in, but there's very little point if you then don't want to keep that player afterwards. So that's important. I think with Brentford, we can probably write off bringing any players in regardless. Like Liverpool away and Man United at home is not that great. I know people keep saying to me, why do you keep putting Man United down as a hard fixture? I think you have to differentiate between a team that might not win every game and how badly they're going to be beat. So Man United, yes, they have not been playing well recently. They've not won enough games. And I'm going to keep switching between the image and the FPL screen. Apart from kind of, when was it? Whenever they played Watford ages ago, 4 goals. And obviously, they conceded twice to Arsenal. They only conceded once to Chelsea, once to Palace. Sorry, they didn't concede to Palace, but you can see they haven't conceded more than 1 goal very often, right? Since game week 12. Okay, the Watford game was really bad, don't get me wrong. So I would put Man United down as a difficult fixture to score loads of goals in. I'm not saying they'll keep a clean sheet, but I think overall, Liverpool away, Man United at home is pretty difficult. Brighton's isn't too bad. I think Chelsea at home is not ideal, but Brighton, again, are not the kind of team to concede a lot of goals. So they might concede against Chelsea, but they'll put up a good fight, and they're at home. And the Crystal Palace at home game is pretty good as well. So again, if we come on to the FPL side, maybe you'd want to bring in someone like Cucurella, who I think is more likely to play both games. I don't know if I'd bring in an attacker with those double game week fixtures. But afterwards, they got Leicester away. Unfortunately, then they do blank in game week 24, so you'd have to be sure that your team could cope with that. And then they got some pretty good fixtures, right? Watford away, Burnley at home, Villa at home, Newcastle. I mean, to be fair, they're pretty good fixtures from an attacking point of view. But Crystal Palace at home and Chelsea at home, maybe not so much. If you're going to bring in a Brighton attacker, you could do it now, but you'd probably be better off waiting a little bit, right? You don't Trossard, Morpay, they just don't scream kind of exciting options. But a defender, or if you've got Sanchez still in goal, probably a pretty good option. Burnley have actually got one of the better fixtures for the double, right? Leicester at home and Watford at home. We're going to come on to a short list of players in a minute. But after those, they've got Arsenal away, Man United at home, Liverpool at home, Brighton away. I mean, it's about, and then Chelsea at home in game week 28. No blanks, but it's about as bad as it gets. So if you bring in a Burnley player, it's pretty much just for the double. And then you're going to want to either look to get rid of them or put them on your bench. Obviously, if you're free hitting, I don't think you completely rule out Burnley players, right? And we'll come on to whether or not free hit is an option soon. Chelsea, I think, is okay if you've got Chelsea players or if you're free hitting. I don't think I'd necessarily bring in any players to play for that double realistically, because after they play the Man City away and Brighton away fixtures, which, by the way, it's a bit of a nightmare to have 2 away fixtures. It's Spurs at home, and then they got 2 blanks, which we know about. We've talked about that for ages now. So if you're someone like me that's still got Alonso, as long as they don't sign another left wing back soon, I'm pretty happy about having to play him in both those fixtures. I think the Man City game could be tight, and the Brighton game, again, could definitely be tight as well. Obviously, he didn't play in the reverse fixture against Brighton because they wanted Reece James up against Lamptey. But unless they sign someone, he will play both those games, you'd imagine. So I don't think they're too bad, but I wouldn't want to bring a Chelsea player in. Leicester's a little bit more interesting. Burnley away and Spurs at home is okay. I know I've said Spurs' defence is looking pretty good. Obviously, they did concede twice to Chelsea. But that's not a bad little double game week. So I think, you know, Maddison's probably one of the players people will look at. Obviously, we've got to wait until press conferences to see who's fit and available. And they've still got Everton to play. We should say there's still game week 21 fixtures to go. Players could get injured in there. But again, that's something we have to just take into account. But afterwards, the fixture run is just not that good at all, really. Brighton at home in game week 23 is okay, I guess, as an attacker. It's not amazing, though. And then it's Liverpool away, West Ham at home. Wolves away don't concede a huge amount of goals either. Chelsea away is pretty difficult. So if you were to bring in Maddison, and to be honest, like, I'm kind of looking at that as well, or probably not another attacker because lots of them are injured. They aren't a player you're going to want to keep long term, and that's going to come into what strategy you use with free hits and stuff like that. So I don't know if that double game week is as good as people are going to make it out to be. Like, Burnley away and Spurs at home is not, it's okay, but the fixtures afterwards are pretty poor. Man United, again, it's 2 away games, which isn't ideal. Man United are still struggling to break down teams who defend well, which Villa can do. I do think the Brentford away game is probably the better of the 2, especially if you've got an attacker. Again, if you've got someone like David De Gea or you've bought in a defender, then you're probably going to keep them. And with Man United, the fixtures afterwards are pretty good. Though West Ham at home is going to be difficult enough, but then it's Burnley, Southampton, Leeds, Watford. So I know Man United have not been playing well, but if you were looking to target a team with a double who's also got some good fixtures afterwards, they're probably the ones to look at. Spurs, again, a lot of us have kind of bought in Spurs attackers over the last couple of weeks. Arsenal at home, Leicester away. It's not too bad. I think Arsenal at home is not a team they're probably going to score lots of goals against, but they could definitely score in that game. And Leicester away, defensively, Leicester have been poor. So both those games could have some goals in it. I don't think they'd necessarily score lots of goals. And obviously you could have a defender as well. And then fixtures afterwards, again, they're not that great, really. There's lots of teams that double that then don't have good fixtures afterwards. And in some ways, that should make you lean more towards the free hit, because you can get the players for the double and then not have them anymore in your team, or not load up on too many players from those fixtures. So Chelsea away straight away afterwards is difficult. Southampton at home is not bad. Wolves at home is okay-ish, and then it's Man City away. So I would say these 4 fixtures, really the only good one there is Southampton at home. Players like Kane and Son, they will continue to tick over in any fixture. But in terms of mega hauls, you're not expecting too many. So I don't know if I'd want to necessarily double up on Kane and Son right now if I didn't already own them. Obviously, take into account if you already own these players, it's a different conversation. You're not having to bring them in. But the fixtures afterwards really do matter. The other kind of, apart from maybe Burnley's double, best one is probably Watford. For Newcastle away and Burnley away, I think King or Dennis, both good options. Possibly could double up. I'm probably going to bring one in this week. Whether I go Dennis or King is a really tricky decision this week. Do I stick with my King pick, or do I go for Dennis, who's the guy in form? We'll have to decide that. But that's a pretty good set of fixtures. And interestingly, straight away afterwards, Watford actually have Norwich at home. So it's not a bad fixture at all. And then obviously Dennis and King, I mean, they've gone up in price. They're not as cheap as they once were, but they could be players that you maybe keep on your bench afterwards. So that's another thing to consider, is the price of the player you're bringing in. The higher the price of that player, the more likelihood you are of wanting to play them. I think for King or Dennis, you know, if you've still got a squad situation where you've got a lot of good players, like 14, 15 playing players, and they can go on the bench for the difficult fixtures, they're probably one of the main targets, I would say, for my team this week. So it's not very exciting, this double game week, I would say, on first look. And the fixtures that have been rearranged also don't look that good. But I'll tell you one good thing about this. There's no definite strategy of what to do. Sometimes double game weeks come and everyone goes, that's what I'm doing. This week I've seen people looking to free hit, people looking to take hits. Some people are still going to bench boost. Some people have only got 2 double game week players. Some people have already got 6 or 7. there's going to be different strategy. You have to decide on your own team. You cannot just get a straight answer from someone on what the best strategy is this week. It's really going to depend. And that makes it a little bit more difficult to plan for, but it also makes it way more fun if you nail it. And obviously, if you don't use a chip now, you can use it later on in the season. But I'll come on to chip strategies in a sec. They're the fixtures. Watford's probably the best. Burnley's not bad either. I don't think Man United is as bad as people will make out either. Elsewhere, I don't know. There's nothing really massively exciting, but that doesn't mean there's not lots of points on offer. So I just came up with like a bit of a short list. It's difficult to do because, again, it depends whether you're free hitting, it depends whether you're going to bring players in and want them for the long term, who you're going to have to take out. I don't think there's any Brentford players that I'd want to bring in right now. If I had Tony, I probably wouldn't be getting rid of him, but I wouldn't want to bring him in. For Brighton, it's probably just Cucurella for me. I would say this is not the only players that I would have on a free hit, by the way, obviously, because it would barely make a team. And you could go for Brighton attackers, but I think their fixtures look better from a defensive point of view than an attacking one. For Burnley, you've got Pope and Wood. Like, if you're on a free hit, Nick Pope might not be a bad option. Burnley's defence is not great, but the fixtures are pretty decent, so you could look at them. Chelsea, I think it's Alonso and Rudiger. Again, if you're on a free hit, Mason Mount comes into play as well. You could take a differential like Lukaku, but I just wouldn't be 100% sure that he would start both games. For Leicester, it's probably just Maddison right now. The problem with Leicester is they've got a lot of injuries. So Vardy's out. I mean, literally all their strikers, Vardy, Iheanacho and Daka, are flagged. So Daka's not expected to back until after the double. Iheanacho's on African Cup of Nations duty, and Vardy is not expected back until after the doubles either. So we could, right, if you're on a free hit, Leicester fans, let me know what you think's going to happen. But maybe Lookman gets a go up front or gets more minutes. Maybe Perez, possibly, who's hardly played at all. Does he go and play up front? It's difficult to know. But you could look at a different Leicester player. But I think Maddison's the standout, just like Ronaldo's the standout for Man United. He's barely been missing minutes at the moment. But obviously, if you are going to free hit, then someone like Mason Greenwood, possibly, who started the last couple, you could go for a defender. Whether or not you take a punt on Luke Shaw or something like that to start both games is hard to know. But Harry Maguire, if he's fit, would start both. And a lot of people have got De Gea as well. Obviously, Son and Kane, but you can add Reguilon, you can add Lloris to that as well. And Watford, I really do think it's just Dennis and King. I mean, if you've got Bachmann and you don't have another double game week goalkeeper, you might play him. But I don't think you're going to bring too many Watford players in unless you are maybe looking to bench boost and you want a second goalkeeper. All right, let's talk about chip strategy. Like, people have already been saying to me, are you using free hit? What transfers are you making? Obviously, this is just initial reactions. Nothing's decided. There's still some matches to be played. There might be more postponements. There's going to be press conference news, right? You can't like really lock anything in, but it is worth having a think, right? So I've got all 4 chips on screen. We're going to talk through them all one by one. So free hit first. Now, the initial reaction I got from a lot of people on Twitter was they don't think the free hit is needed because the fixtures just don't look that great. And I think there's always a tendency to think that. But for the most part, virtually every double game week good option is going to be better than their single game week equivalent. And I'm including Liverpool players and I'm including West Ham players in that. If you are considering using the free hit, or even if you're not, but there's some doubts you've got in your mind, build a realistic free hit team and see how that compares to your single game week players. The other thing you have to remember with the free hit is it lets you keep players in your team you're going to want long term. So again, if I just bring up my team really quickly, I'll talk about my thoughts in a minute on my own team. But Foden, for example, maybe I don't really want him this week, Chelsea at home, so I could sell him, okay? And this is, I know there's kind of COVID tests and stuff happening at Man City, right? That news kind of broke as well today. But let's say that match is on. Look, I might not want him, but straight away, if he's going to be available for Southampton away, Brentford at home, Norwich away, I probably do want to keep him. So being able to free hit him out and get him back in is possibly a good thing, right? Long term, maybe I want my West Ham players as well. Okay, it's not great coming back to Man United away, but Watford, Leicester, Newcastle straight after, I probably want them. So being able to free hit players out to get double game week players is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm going to put a free hit video together, and so this is just initial instincts, but I think the maximum amount of single game week players I would have on a free hit team, like in the first 11, you might have them on the bench or whatever, is 3. So Trent and Jota, just because we know what Liverpool can do, although they haven't got Salah and Mane, so who knows if they'll be as good. I'm sure they're still going to win these games. I'm sure they'll be good, but are they going to be as good? And then maybe one of Antonio or Bowen. I don't think you'd have both of them, right? Surely, if you're building a free hit, think about your forward line. You're going to have 3 of Kane, Ronaldo, Dennis, and King. Surely, right? You're going to put any of those in ahead of Antonio against Leeds, right? So that maybe leaves Bowen. But then think of the midfield options. You've got Son, you've got Maddison. That's just off the top of my head. You could have Mason Mount in there. You could have Jota. I don't know. Maybe you put Jota in, but where does Bowen then fit? And then you're thinking about your defence. We've got Cucurella doesn't look that bad. I think Alonso doesn't look that bad if they haven't got another left wing back. So maybe you have Trent in there. But you get what I'm saying. I think it's people will look at their team and they'll see that Leeds at home and Brentford at home fixture for West Ham and Liverpool. And they are good single game week fixtures. But let's not pretend we haven't got a double game week where there's probably going to be better options than a lot of those players. But again, there's a lot of divergence you can go with tactics right now. And it might be worth using the free hit later on. And everyone's team's different. So I'm not going to sit here and say someone that's not free hitting is making a bad decision. Just like I won't say that someone that's free hitting is making a bad decision either, right? But one of the things you have to consider is, will there be better game weeks to use it? So on yesterday's video or the day before, I mentioned a blank around game week 30. Yes, it's not in the schedule yet, but it will happen because of FA Cup fixtures, right? So teams will progress to, I don't know off the top of my head which round it is. It's usually like 5th or 6th round or something like that. And then their Premier League games get called off. There's a big blank game week and they get rearranged later, which is how we know there's a big double game week later on as well. So one of your free hits could be useful for that. The other thing as well to think about is in game week 27, Liverpool don't play. And you're probably not going to want to get rid of your Liverpool players because they played Burnley away and Norwich at home before that. So they're possibly prime captaincy options. But also in game week 27... Arsenal don't play either. So if you're one of the people, see they don't play here, if you're one of the people that are already saying to yourself, well, I really want Saka back or I want Martinelli because they got good fixtures, Brentford at home and Watford at home, away either side, well, what are you going to do about them in game week 27 as well as your Liverpool players as well? So possibly the free hit could be better there instead of using it right now. So again, I'm not saying either way which is the best way to do it. I'm just saying don't completely write off either option. Triple captain, I just think there's a very good, there is pretty much a definite chance that Liverpool get 2 double game weeks once Salah is back. And therefore, I don't see why you'd really use the triple game week this week. One of the arguments people make, which I think is like this massive myth, that using a triple captain on a differential is better for your rank. Ultimately, the triple captain gets you 1 extra lot of points. So if Salah gets 15 points, your triple captain gets 15 points. If you captain a differential, Maddison this week, and he gets 15 points, you've still gained 15 points from the triple captain, right? I think what people forget is they still get a double score if they don't have the triple captainship. So I just think because Liverpool got doubles later, because one of them's Leeds at home, if that gets put in on another week where they've got a really good fixture as well, and there is some speculation it could be game week 26 when they play... who is it? I think it's Norwich at home. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, Norwich at home, Leeds at home. I mean, who doesn't want a triple captain Salah for that? Yes, it's boring. I get that, but I just think it's the best play right now. Bench boost. The only thing that puts me off bench boost is there going to be more postponements? Could there be postponements after the deadline? And do you have 15 playing players and how close can you get there? I do think if you can use a few transfers to get a few extra double game week players and you've got a good bench of single game week players, I don't see any issue with using the bench boost because it then lets you concentrate on not having to think about that later on in the season. When people are planning their wildcards around a bench boost, you're just trying to get your best first 11 out every week. So I don't think, for most people, the bench boost probably won't be relevant this week because of the way the squads are set up. But for some people, it definitely will be. And I would not be put off by having a few, if not all, single game week players on the bench. Wildcard, I think, is really tricky. How much info do we have about when fixtures are going to get rearranged? As we've shown this week, as has been shown in Game Week 21, it's really difficult to call when they're exactly going to be. I would prefer to know that they've already been rearranged and hopefully later on in the season there'll be less postponements, less chaos. It's just much easier to build a wild card. And also, if you wild card this week and you go mostly double game week players, how many single game week players, like Liverpool players, like West Ham, are you going to want back afterwards anyway? You'd probably take all your Man City players out, but you'd still want to keep them. And I think if you wildcarded, you would just have to wildcard into so many single game week players anyway. it's maybe not worth it. But again, it's going to be team dependent. And that goes to say, like, will you wildcard out players long term? So again, I've spoken about Man City, good fixtures after 22. Liverpool players you probably don't want to get rid of. And West Ham, after the Man United game, again, they got really good fixtures. So I think the biggest question this week is, are you going to bench boost or not? And are you going to free hit or not? I think for most people, wildcard's not needed. And for triple captain, look, if you want to use it on Ronaldo or Son or Kane or someone like that, it's not a bad week to do it. I just think Salah having Leeds at home, like, he's just been so good this season. Why would you not want to do that? So I want to talk about my own team a little bit. I'm going to do a team selection video later on this week when we got more information. I don't mean more double game weeks. I just mean like postponements, injury news, press conference news and stuff like that, right? So as it stands, I've got 4 double game week players. So I've got De Gea, I've got Ronaldo, I've got Son, and I've got Alonso. I'm pretty happy with them. I think from my kind of short list and from the top players from the teams that have got doubles, I've probably got a lot of bases covered. Again, there will be people with more double game week players than me. There'll be less people with less as well. The issue I have, and this is very much hindsight, right? I'm not pretending otherwise. I'm not saying I would go back and reverse the decision, although I might do now with the information we have. It's pure hindsight, okay? You don't need to tell me that it is. I know it is. But putting Dawson in, although I did kind of say at some point I would probably regret having the extra money in Dawson, but going for Dawson over Johnson when both of them kind of blanked anyway means I've got 0.9 million on a bench play now, a West Ham defender where I could use that money elsewhere. And also by doing Brownhill to Gray, I've also got more money just spread thinly in my squad. Now, Gray might go and smash it against Leicester and I'll be happy. He might smash it against Norwich. I'm not saying he won't. But right now, I just wonder if that money could be better used elsewhere, especially the Dawson and Johnson issue, because I don't even really want to play. I don't see really why I would play Dawson this week. So it's kind of a bit annoying, right? But we have to deal with what we've got. So what I really want to do, I think, especially when they got Norwich the week afterwards, is upgrade Broja to one of King or Dennis. I'm not going to go into which one right now. I need to have a bit more of a think on that. But I don't have any money. Well, I have 0.1 in the bank, and it's not enough. Now, I can't sell any of my double game week players. I just don't want to do that. I definitely don't want to sell Cancelo, Trent, or Jota. And selling Bowen or Antonio is tough as well. So I could sell Dawson to fund it, but then I'd be selling Dawson to a player that's probably not got a double game week who I'm not going to play. So I'm taking a hit just to do Broja to King or Dennis, which I'm okay with, but not with Dawson. The only player really, the only 2 players that stand out for me are Foden or Gray. Gray's got a really good fixture this week and pretty good fixtures afterwards. But realistically, if I bring in King, Gray would probably drop to my bench for a few weeks, or if I bring in Dennis, right? That's just a slip of the tongue. Gray would probably be on my bench. So how much do I need to keep him? But do I really want to take a hit to remove him versus Norwich, right? It's tough. And the same with Foden. If I take Foden out for Maddison, which gives me enough money to do Broja to King or Dennis, that's fine. But then if I bring King or Dennis in, I've got to bench one of my other players. I can't bench a defender because I've only got 3. So that means I have to bench one of Bowen, Antonio or Gray. So it puts me into a pretty tricky position. I don't really want to take a player out for a single game week player. That doesn't seem like a great play for this week. But without doing that, I bring in a double game week player, which means I'm forced to bench one of Bowen, Antonio or Gray. So it's really tricky for me. It's not as easy as it looks. But Broja up to King or Dennis does feel like a pretty good move. If I don't free hit, and I'll come on to that in a second, then I think possibly the Dawson to Johnson and just bench Foden, maybe, for King or Dennis, and just play Gray might be the play. That would only give me 5 double game week players though. Obviously if I do the Foden to Maddison one, that gives me 6. But it does mean I've got to bench one of my players with a good fixture. So it's a tricky spot. That's my initial reaction. Things might change. I could free hit this team, right? I want my Liverpool players long term. I want my West Ham players. At least I want Bowen and Antonio longer term. And I also probably want Foden and Cancelo as well. So that's at least 6 players I want straight back. And having Ronaldo and Son and De Gea and players like that, they're probably okay for now as well. So I'm not completely writing off the free hit. I would have at least 8, maybe 9 plus double game week players if I free hit. That's a lot of extra fixtures than what I've got now. It also means I don't have to take a hit. The only issue for me is what I spoke about before. That big blank game week, will I need it? Possibly, because I've got my wild card, right? And that's something I didn't talk about with the chip strategy is, you could dead end your team into that big blank game week, and that basically means making all your transfers so that you get to the blank game week and you can get enough players out, and then you wildcard straight afterwards. So if you've got 2 free hits like I do, you could free hit in the blank when Liverpool and Arsenal don't play, and then use the other one this week, and then just dead end your team into game week 30. The problem is we just don't know when all the fixtures are going to go, so we don't know right now if that's a good strategy, and that is why I'm kind of tempted to just put off my chip use until we know exactly when the rest of the fixtures are going to fall. And that might not happen anytime soon, but at least it leaves me a bit more flexible later on. And this week I could just go for a couple more double game week players with my free transfers. So look, my hand might be forced. I don't want to go into too much more detail. Maybe Bo and Antonio Gray gets injured and things completely change. But that's all I'm looking right now. I mean, it looks nice. I don't think it's that bad of a team, but it could be better. So there we go. Double game weeks. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking about what's been announced, what your kind of initial thoughts on transfers, chip strategy, and stuff like that is as well. I'm probably going to do a free hit video for tomorrow, maybe, or maybe one of the days over the weekend. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover specifically about Double Game Week. Obviously, next week we'll do transfer tips, team selection, and that kind of thing as well. If you have enjoyed it, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Of course, if you're new on here, new around here, I should say, because we cover all this stuff throughout the whole season. Otherwise, I'll leave it there and I'll catch you again soon.